I believe art is going to save this planet because it's this incredible way to make us feel, and hopefully that feeling can help us motivate to, want to make impact and change. I don't have any fear towards AI, and I think people get surprised. I think it's something as artists that we need to embrace, like it's not going anywhere. The thing that AI will never have on me is I'm human. I would like to challenge that and say that artists throughout time have always talked about the real world and what's happening. It's a beautiful way to channel frustration, to document real world action, to real world life.
Hello and welcome to the Ocean News podcast, an audio series in which we take a deeper dive into the most important stories and biggest headlines from the Oceanographic newsroom. I'm Eva Cahil, the editorial assistant here at Oceanographic, and in this Friday interview special, I'll be joined in the studio with our new storyteller in residence, Francesca Page. If you're familiar with her and her work, you will know that creativity is at the heart of everything she does, and she has a central belief that art has the power to change the world. So, just after her new position was announced, she came to our headquarters to unpack this idea. It was a really interesting discussion exploring the cultural power of art, the real world impact it can have, and how emerging AI may change how we think about human creativity.
Right. Well, thank you for coming in today, Francesca. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. And congrats for being the new storyteller in residence. That must be exciting. But I thought we'd use this opportunity to dig more into kind of your mantra that powers a lot of your storytelling. And that is that art has the power to save the world. Can you unpick that a bit for me and explain why you think that?
Well, art is this incredible vehicle to make people feel something. And in order for action to happen on this planet, we need to feel. Change doesn't happen just like that, you have to feel something within. And I believe that art is this universal language. And when I say art, it's an umbrella to so many different art forms. I feel like a lot of people, when they think of art, they think of a painting, when actually art is photography, it's film, it's writing, it's poetry, it's dance, it's food, it's culture. That is what art is all about. It's woven into our fabric as human beings throughout time. I feel like that's actually what really makes humans human. It's our ability to create art, our ability to storytell. If you look back at like the cave paintings thousands of years ago, that is a form of art and storytelling, and us trying to process the world around us and then communicate it to others. So art is within all of us, and I believe art is going to save this planet because it's this incredible way to make us feel, and hopefully that feeling can help us motivate to, want to make impact and change.
Yeah, that's kind of the bit I wanted to unpick is I think art is so powerful in making us feel things, but how do we make people then go from the art and appreciating the art and feeling inspired by it and actually it turning into action? Because yeah, I think sometimes even with we shared recently the clip of David Attenborough's bottom trawling, and that documentary is so beautiful and well put together. That's like culturally an art form. But again, that stuff's still going on and people will often see it and keep on scrolling on their feeds. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is something that's always in the back of my mind of how can we create that pressure and keep that pressure on people? Because yeah, Oceans last year was incredible. It was incredibly emotive, but hey, it was preaching to the choir already converted, which is myself. But it was incredibly emotive, especially that bottom trawling video clip. And I feel like you need to have a call to action. If someone watches something and feels something, a documentary, goes to an art exhibition, opens up Oceanographic Magazine, sees a story that they feel something with, if there's no call to action, there's nothing for them to continue that kind of conversation and that curiosity.
To channel it into almost.
Then it kind of falls flat, especially in the current era that we're in with social media. We're bombarded by information every single day. How do you cut through that? And I think that's something that I'm constantly trying to answer, and I'm developing as I continue as a storyteller. But I think that's something I've been thinking quite heavily about my time as a SIR this year, over the next year, is how can I create impact beyond the pages of a magazine? And so I'm trying to think of like working the NGOs and the charities and the people that I'm going to be working with over the next year. How can I amplify their work? Do they need funding? Is there something that, do we need to create more marine protective areas? How can my work help inspire government to change policy? So I think to answer your question, it's about call to action. It's about keeping that pressure. It's about continuing to remind people in an age where we're so busy. And so, yeah, it's a very hard one to answer, but I do think we just need more people out there telling stories and using art. So whoever's listening to this, if you have a creative skill, and we all do, even talking language, that's a creative skill, use it for the better of our planet.
I do think there's also something about creating a culture. Like you said, art is so foundational to our culture, and creating art about the beauty of our ocean, the problems the ocean's facing, even if it doesn't translate into direct action, you can't match. They went to this exhibition and then they signed up to do this sponsored race or a charity, whatever. It's more those cultural conversation it brings. Oh, I went to see this exhibition, or have you seen the David Attenborough documentary, and kind of bringing those conversations to the forefront. It's not necessarily as direct as being able to put it on a spreadsheet and be like, art has this impact. But I think it's a really important way of kind of drawing attention to those things.
Well, just leapfrogging from what you just said, I have this sort of vision that I'm this like artist gardener, and everywhere I go sprinkle my little seeds. And I'm aware that some of those seeds might take years to grow, or they might never grow, or they might instantly grow, just like gardening. And I feel like that's how I try and see, is like it's not something that's going to happen immediately, but I know the more I keep sprinkling my seeds, whether that's through social media, through publications, through getting myself out there, I know that over time there will be a ripple effect. But it's sort of like you have to be consistent with that. It doesn't just happen instantly. It can take decades as well.
Yeah. Can you talk to me a bit more about, because you decorated this Lime bike, right? Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, that was a really fun one. It was actually a year ago today, which is amazing and wild that it's a year ago. Life is moving far too fast. So I was commissioned by Lime, the bike. I'm sure we've all heard of it and maybe written it in London and other cities around the world. And they partnered with Together for the Ocean to create an awareness art installation campaign about a 30 by 30 campaign, so protecting 30% of our oceans by 2030. We've only protected, I can't remember now, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's less than 10%?
Yeah, I think it's about
it's
about
a wild
that.
amount. Yeah, it's a wild, not a lot. We need to do more. And so I was presented this amazing opportunity. I had 28 days to come up with the concept, illustrate, organize a team to help me create the bike, because I also got it wrapped, and then I also did 3D art for the first time, which I'm obsessed with.
How did you find that?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I just love it, and now I want to do more. So that's something I'm trying to actively kind of add into my repertoire of art tools. That's how I see it, as my mediums that I work with. So I had this Lime bike and I created a moving art installation. So I tried to illustrate 8 major ocean habitats from around the world, some being obviously coral reef, deep sea, open ocean, kelp, coastal. I think that's everything from the top of my head. But I really wanted to create a piece of art that you put your own narrative onto it. I don't want it to be too imposing of like a certain species or certain place. I wanted it to be kind of like, I used key characters, like characters from Finding Nemo had like clownfish, whale sharks. I tried to pick species that everyone can relate to and like is excited by. And the idea was it was supposed to go around the UN Ocean Conference last year, and it was supposed to invite policymakers, people of influence, and also the public to get on that bike and ride it and start a conversation. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to go out to Nice and see it in action, but it was amazing kind of seeing that ripple effect and the conversations that came from that. And since then, I've had so many conversations with people that are like, oh my gosh, I saw your
No
bike.
way. See.
And I got on it and it made me think about this. And then I went home and had this conversation with my family and da 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 da. And I'm like, that is what it's all about. It's the seed. I planted quite a big seed, which probably one of the biggest seeds I've planted in my art career. But that was really profound, and it actually really kind of made me see impact in real time unfolding. And that kind of really led me sort of deepening my journey into like impact and storytelling and like actually how can I make impact that's beyond a post on social media or a publication in a magazine, like real world change. And like I feel like all of the, like what I just said, social media and publications and posters, and they're all great, but I think if, like we just said, if there isn't any of like real world action happening beyond that, then it's not empty, but I feel like it doesn't weigh as yeah, it's missing something. Yeah.
Do you feel that art is more powerful when there is this action behind it and it's got a message? Or like, I think some people would say creativity is a pure thing. I think a lot of artists maybe wouldn't engage in activism in the same way because it would be seen as almost like muddying their craft. There's the aesthetics who prioritize kind of art for the sake of art. What is your view on the politicization of art?
I would like to challenge that and say that artists throughout time have always talked about the real world and what's happening. It's a beautiful way to channel frustration, to document real world action, to real world life. I mean, before the invention of a camera, the painting was literally like the real world proof of people, place, species, and also political and religious actions. So I think it's actually very deeply embedded in being a creative because we're observers and we're just documenting the world around us or documenting our feelings. And so I think there's two kind of like two parts to it. Like art is healing. It's my meditation, and I'm sure lots of people will resonate with that. It's a place of healing, it's a place of growth, it's a place of reflection. You know, I feel like artists are always like the deepest people I've ever met because you spend a lot of your time in your mind, a place that a lot of people are scared to go. And I feel very comfortable within myself, and I have to thank my art for that. And so it's a very healing thing. And there's a lot of artists, and that's you know, that's the level that they'll go to. And I think that's a beautiful thing. We need more healing in the world, especially when you turn the news on and all I think is like, man, if everyone just picked up a paintbrush,
I was literally thinking the same thing. I was like, we need to get some of these people on an art course.
Go hug a tree and like pick up a paintbrush, and you probably feel like just do a bit of colouring in. You'll have a great time. So yeah, but then on the same thing, like I studied illustration at university at Camberwell College of the Arts, and throughout my degree, I was deeply curious about how visual communication can help effectively protect our planet, and especially in the era of
Anthropomorphism?
No, Anthropocene.
Oh, Anthropocene.
That's it. Sorry, dyslexia there, everyone. I can see it on paper, but my mouth don't want to say it. But yeah, so I was just like deeply curious about how art was influencing policy change, was influencing change in our world. But I was also not just looking in the space of illustration and hand-drawn stuff. I was looking at documentaries and photography and sculpture, and I was just sort of like very curious of like, wow, there's so many different art forms, and actually, if anything, we need multiple different art forms because people resonate with different types. Some people might resonate with an illustration I do, but they might not resonate with a photo, and vice versa. So I do see like the importance of so many different types of storytelling, which is why I'm so encouraging of people to just go out there and just use your skills, because it's so vital. And I feel like now more than ever. I mean, how I see art is this beautiful bridge between, you know, science, research, political, and the public. You know, it's like we're this vessel, we're this bridge, and we're able to take complex information and be able to regurgitate it into something that's playful, easy to look at, which allows hopefully feeling, conversation, change, impact, even if it is something that you feel for a second, but if you keep seeing it over a period of time, it will slowly get into your brain. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And someone said it yesterday. We had our interview event, and they were talking about how out of sync the humanities and sciences, so like the humanities and arts and sciences, have become. And I think that connection point between the two of them, the arts is a really good way of being able to convey the feeling of the science that we know and to kind of channel more people to want to discover more. And the humanities is a really good way to sort of temper what we do with the science, like to understand the moral decisions we're making and to understand the gravity of what we're doing to the world.
It's a beautiful marriage. That's how I see it. Like, it's like we need more of it. And I'm similar, like in terms of my journey of getting to where I am. Like, it's not linear. It's not conventional. Like, I didn't study marine biology. A lot of people think I did. No, I'm just a huge freaking nerd. I've read like pretty much have done a marine biology, a shark degree at this point, just due to the amount of books and papers I've read. However, like, I didn't start that journey. I started it through art, but through that curiosity and wanting to learn more. But then I feel like, in a way, I feel quite lucky that I did art and I didn't go down that science route, because I see things from a really different perspective that an art degree kind of allows. I mean, I literally studied visual communication, like how to communicate messages. I studied color theory, I studied composition, I studied like how to take complex, I mean, illustration is literally taking complex information and turning it into one single image. And so that has actually really helped me with my photography, because a lot of times when I'm out in the field or I'm trying to communicate a really hard message, you know, I'm having to think like, hey, what would I do if I was to illustrate it? And then I go, okay, well, you know, I could do this through slow shutter, or I could do this through whatever. So a year and a half ago, I went with Blue Marine Foundation to capture the incredible work done by the Convex Seascape Survey, where they're trying to investigate blue carbon stores at the bottom of our sea floor. It's a fascinating project. However, when I was presented with the story, I was thinking, how do I capture one, an invisible element, which is blue carbon, and how do I make someone care about mud? They kept saying sediment, but effectively to the public, it's mud.
Yeah.
And that was something that, I mean, I'm deeply passionate and like excited by stories that are like of misunderstood species, habitats, and communities, because it kind of has to like ignite that creative kind of brain in me of like, okay, this is a really hard subject that I need to kind of communicate and make someone like actually care. And so I before every shoot, I draw thumbnails in my sketchbook and I try and visualize what the photo story is going to look like, which is really helpful when I'm in the field, because then I'm already like in tuned into what I need to photograph.
Yeah, you've got the goal.
I've got, yeah. And then if anything else arises, then, you know, you jump on that opportunity. Anyway, so after I did some field work and I got some, I was really happy with the photos I got. And then I went back to Exeter University with the scientists and just sort of capturing. And I had this vision, and they thought I was mad at first, but I was like, I'm going to paint with blue light, and it's going to represent blue carbon. They didn't quite get it. I was like, I just need you to all stand around this pot of mud and look really curious. And it's going to be like a 2-minute like exposure.
Just
So you have
trusting.
to really stay still.
Yeah.
Ben, bless him, twitched. The two girls, Tara and Mara, you did amazing.
God, 2 minutes is a long time.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. Well, I think I tried 1 minute. I tried different, but like
Yeah.
I put it on the light bulb effect, so like you turn the slow shutter off. And so I took quite a few attempts, because something I quite like about slow shutters is that you've no idea how the end result's going to be. For me, it's like this ultimate like abstract painting. You're
Yeah.
literally painting with light. And so I had this vision and I practiced at home, and after like quite a few attempts, I remember I looked at the back of my screen. I was like, okay, I've got it.
Yeah,
I've got
that
the
must be
shot.
such a good feeling.
Yeah, and the end result I felt was this beautiful like hero image of the whole project that also has since then, like the amount of people I'm like, how did you do that? Like that got me thinking, that stopped me in my tracks. It obviously was published in Oceanographic Magazine. And so I think that to me was also, in terms of my journey, that was an image that really stands out to me, because it made me go, okay, this is really interesting. I did an image that got people thinking, got people excited, got people curious about an invisible element and mud. And so if I can do that, I can pretty much I can do anything. It kind of almost like gave me permission to like go out and be like, right, let's go find something else.
Yeah.
And also got me more curious to want to tell more stories of the misunderstood places and species and habitats and communities. And it taught me like the power of what even one single image can have.
This is a slight turn in the conversation, but I'm interested on your thoughts, because AI we often see as people are like, it's amazing. It just kind of condenses information and communicates it really clearly to you. And it has its own viewpoint. And art does that kind of the same way. And there's almost in my head these two competing things. One is uniquely human, that conveys something uniquely human, and one is something that synthesizes information very clearly. With sort of the rise of AI and this kind of mass information blob, how does art work in that environment?
It's so funny the amount of times I've been asked this
Yeah,
question.
sure.
And I feel like there's so much fear. I don't have any fear towards AI, and I think people get surprised. I mean, I haven't necessarily noticed my work drop. So I don't notice, like, people always ask like, oh, how about your work? And I'm like, I haven't really noticed. If anything, my work's getting more, which is cool. But to answer your question, look, AI has been going around since the birth of Google. I think that's something that people need to understand, is we have been using AI and artificial intelligence for a very long time. It's only recently, now with ChatGPT and Claude and all these other things, that, you know, people learn these horrible AI images, which, you know, humans with 6 fingers and all that type of stuff. that, you know, people are getting scared. And yes, I think AI has reduced potentially some jobs, you know, and it's making us more efficient as humans as well. But I think it's something as artists that we need to embrace. Like, it's not going anywhere. But the thing that I'm not worried about at all is the thing that AI will never have on me is I'm human. If you go to an art gallery and you see a load of paintings, so they're like digital prints of a painting, and you find out on one half they're humans and one half it's AI, you're not going to want to interact or care about the AI. What you will want to do is learn about that artist. Say there's an artist biography and you learn about why they created the artwork, and then there's a behind the scenes or there's a sketchbook, and it's humans connect with humans. We are, I feel like when we're birthed into this world, we're just constantly in search for connection. And AI will never give us connection. Yes, I mean, I've read loads of things recently about AI boyfriends and all that type of stuff. So, you know, and maybe there is connection for some people and it's helpful for some. But in terms of art, AI will never give us that connection. And actually something I've noticed, like in terms of my illustration background, companies that are using AI images to create, you know, posters and stuff. Okay, yeah, it's really cheap, whatever. But they're getting a lot of backlash because people don't want to see that. They want to see an artist create that work because we connect with that human, like it's something that we can actually resonate with somebody picking up a pencil, picking up a camera, or picking up a paintbrush and physically making a mark on a page. But I'm not necessarily worried because for me, and I think actually advice I give to any artist right now, when I say artist, a photographer, a filmmaker, a painter, a writer, art is, like I said earlier, an umbrella to make sure that when you are communicating your art to the world, you make sure that you're a part of that story. You know, you want people to connect with not just your art, but the artist. So yeah, I see actually AI as potentially being a positive thing, but I do feel like there's a fine line. And so it depends on which line humanity decides to go. The one above or the one below, which I can't determine.
Yeah,
but,
our track record isn't the best, but you
no.
never know this time.
You never know.
Yeah, I read something that was about how the best art is made in resistance. And so with the rise of AI and people constantly seeking, there is sort of a resistance, I think, to this inundation of like anonymous kind of material and overload of information. And so could we actually get better art in the age of AI because we're kind of coming up against that challenge? And I hope we do kind of get this flurry of like amazing human expression.
I'm always like a half, not half empty, half full. Was it half full? Is it half full?
Yeah.
I'm always a half full type of girl, and I always see, like, I think maybe it's just age and maturity and like having, now I see it as case studies in my life of when things go wrong, and there's always a silver lining. Every single time something bad happens, there's always a silver lining. Even when I see horrendous stuff happen around the world, years later there's some type of silver lining. And so, yeah, okay, maybe I'm quite a positive mindset. I feel like you kind of have to be. But yeah, I do think there is potentially a silver lining coming out of it. And maybe it's just encouraging more people to support human expression and maybe seeing the value in that and how it actually can make us feel something. What I feel with art is I feel like you can tell a lot about the artist through the art that they create, because I see it as a portal into their inner expression, into their inner soul.
Yeah.
And you really, like, I love like going to art exhibitions or photography or whatever, art, even film. And I think you can watch it and you can tell so much about that person. And then you meet the artist, and I feel like I'm always right with my assumptions. I'm like, yeah, I kind of felt like you were going to be like that because, you know, I could feel that in your work. And, you know, even like,
knew their soul almost.
Yeah, there's been some art exhibitions I've been to, and like there have been particular paintings that I've experienced and I felt deeply moved, or I could feel there was friction. And then I would talk to the artist and I was like, you know, were you going through a dark time when you painted that? Like, how did you know? And I'm like, I just felt there. And
It's amazing.
it's not woo woo. It's an energy exchange. You know, when I put paintbrush to canvas or a pencil to paper, or I push the shutter down, it's an exchange of energy. And we live in a world where we're constantly exchanging energy. So yeah, that's my take on it.
So to like round up, I think we're both in agreement. Art has an amazing place in helping inspire activism and helping forge connection that creates impact. Art can be seen as elitist by some, feel like, you know, out of touch, you need to be trained, I'm not creative. Those are the kind of classic things thrown around. How can each and every person who's listening to this bring creativity and art into their lives to create impact for the people around them?
I love that question. And I get this a lot. People go, I'm not good at art, or I'm bad at drawing, or I was taught at school that I couldn't draw. I've heard that a lot. Hey, I'm severely dyslexic, and at school I was told you can't do maths, you can't do science, and you can't write. Hey, well, I am now paving a way as a writer. I didn't do science, but I've dived into a lot of science journals, and I feel like I've got a good knowledge. I work with scientists a lot. And so I always sort of give that thing of like, someone down the line told you you can't do it. By the way, every child that is born a creative. Give a child a piece of paper and a pencil, and they do not care about the outcome. They're there for the moment, they're there for the journey, and they're just excited to create something on a page. And there was some point in your life that you were told you weren't good enough or you can't do it. And I feel like, if I was a teacher with young kids, I would very much encourage to not ever use the word can't or no, and be like, you can, and encourage children to do more arts. Because imagine if that was encouraged, there would probably be a lot more communication happening in the world. And when I say art, like I said earlier, it's not just that's just an example. I mean, but I really hope that whoever's listening to this to go within and think about your creative spark, because creativity is problem solving. You can be an incredibly creative physicist, mathematician, engineer, lawyer. Creativity isn't just the act of making a mark on a page. It's also coming up with amazing ideas that ultimately could help save our planet on a big scale.
This has been the Ocean News podcast. I've been Eva Cahil. Thank you for listening.